say they're trailblazers. So, we've got some pretty interesting new information regarding the future of Honkai Star Rail today. This time we're looking further ahead at potential new 5-star forms or SP versions for existing characters that could be coming during version 5X. We've already heard leaks about version 5X potentially introducing a brand new playable path called Finality, alongside several older characters receiving SP versions. And now, a new leak gives us a better idea of which characters could potentially be getting these alternate forms. According to a very reliable source named HXG, who stated that more SPs or 5-star forms for existing characters will be releasing during version 5X, and include SP forms for Firefly, Misha, Kafka, Dan Heng, and March 7th. Obviously, none of this is officially confirmed, so these characters and plans can still change. But with some extremely popular characters included on this list, there's definitely a lot to talk about. So let's go through each character and discuss what their potential SP versions could look like. Starting with the biggest piece of information from today's leaks, Misha SP. According to HXG, the previous rumor about Misha receiving an SP version is apparently true. We also received some additional information suggesting that his new model will use the medium male character model. Misha is probably the most unexpected name on this list. Compared to characters like Firefly and Kafka, Misha isn't nearly as popular or important to the overall game. However, that's also what makes this interesting. An SP version could give Hoyoverse the opportunity to completely reinvent Misha. His current version is an ice destruction character, meaning an alternate form could potentially have a completely different gameplay identity, path, and even story significance. And with Finality rumored to be coming in version 5X, there's also the possibility that Misha could be involved with whatever new mechanics are introduced during this era. Of course, there's currently no confirmation that Misha SP will be a Finality character, so that part is purely speculation. Next up, we have Firefly. If this leak ends up being accurate, Firefly receiving an SP version wouldn't be particularly surprising. She's one of the most popular characters in Honkai Star Rail and has played a major role in the game's story. Her original version is heavily connected to Sam and the Stellaron Hunters, giving Hoyoverse plenty of opportunities to take her character in a completely different direction. Rather than simply being another version of the same Firefly, her SP form could represent a major development for her character while also introducing a new combat style. And because of Firefly's popularity, she would be an obvious choice to showcase any major new mechanics introduced in version 5X. That becomes even more interesting if she's somehow connected to the rumored Finality path. Again, that's only speculation for now, but Firefly would certainly be one of the biggest characters Hoyoverse could use to introduce a new era of gameplay. Moving on, we have Kafka. Kafka has been one of the faces of Honkai Star Rail since the game's launch. She's one of the first characters players encountered, one of the most recognizable Stellaron hunters, and remains extremely popular. So an SP version of Kafka would immediately generate a huge amount of interest. What's especially interesting is that her current gameplay is so closely tied to damage over time teams. Because of that, Hoyoverse could take two very different approaches with her SP. They could make her an even more specialized dot character, or they could completely reinvent her gameplay and give her a role that has almost nothing to do with her original version. Personally, the second option would be much more interesting. An SP version is an opportunity to give an existing character a completely new identity, and Kafka is popular enough to justify such a major change. Next, we have Dan Heng. This one is particularly interesting because we've already seen Hoyoverse give Dan Heng a completely different playable form. Imbibitor Luni showed us just how drastically a character can be transformed through an alternate version. So if Dan Heng receives another SP form during version 5X, we could potentially be looking at another major transformation. Dan Heng also has plenty of story material that could serve as inspiration for a new version. And there's another reason his inclusion is important. One of the earlier leaks claimed that at least one future SP character would be a member of the Astral Express. If this new list is accurate, Dan Heng and March 7th would both fit that description. And that brings us to March 7th. March is already one of the clearest examples of how alternate versions can work in Honkai Star Rail. We've already received Hunt March 7th, which completely changed her path and gameplay compared to her original preservation form. So another SP version wouldn't be unprecedented at all. Considering how important March is to the Astral Express and the overall story, another major playable form would make a lot of sense. The biggest question is simply what direction Hoyoverse could take her this time. We've already seen Preservation and Hunt March, so an SP version could potentially give her an entirely different gameplay identity. And if she ends up being connected to Finality, March could potentially become one of the characters used to introduce players to that new path. But once again, there's currently nothing confirming that connection. Now, looking at the entire rumored list, there's actually a pretty interesting pattern. We have massive fan favorites like Firefly and Kafka, a much less prominent character like Misha, and two major Astral Express members in Dan Heng and March 7th. That could suggest Hoyoverse is planning to use the SP system more aggressively during version 5X. Instead of only creating alternate forms for the most popular characters, they could use SP versions to bring characters from different points in the game's history back into the spotlight. And that's arguably the most exciting part. An SP version doesn't have to simply be a stronger version of the original character. It can completely change how that character plays. We've already seen that with Dan Heng and March 7th, whose alternate versions have very different identities from their original forms. So if Hoyoverse continues this approach in version 5X, even characters who haven't been relevant for a long time could potentially become important again. And this could become even more significant if these SP characters are connected to new mechanics or the rumored Finality path. Speaking of Finality, this is where the leaks become especially interesting. We've previously heard that version 5X could introduce a brand new playable path called Finality. We've also heard that several existing characters could receive SP versions. And now we have a rumored list of 5 characters. However, we shouldn't assume that all 5 will be Finality characters. They could be spread across different paths, with only some of them being connected to Finality. But if even a few of these SP characters end up being Finality units, version 5X could potentially feel very different from a normal patch cycle. A brand new path combined with alternate versions of characters that players have known for years could mark the beginning of a major new era for Honkai Star Rail. But that's pretty much all of the new information we currently have. Remember that everything here is still unofficial, so take these leaks with a grain of salt until we get official announcements. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all the latest Honkai Star Rail leaks, news, and updates. That's it for now, so I'll see you guys in the next video.